I couldn't have told you it was there.
Chief, sit down.
Thank you. All right, thank you everybody for coming. It's nice of you to come out and welcome me. I really appreciate it. All right, welcome for the May 24th Committee of the Whole meeting, the City of Belvedere Committee of the Whole meeting. So the clerk will call the roll, please.
Brereton,
Here.
Flurry,
Present.
Frank, Freeman,
Here.
McGee,
Here.
Mulhall,
Present.
Porter, Prather, here, Snow,
Here.
Stevens,
Here.
10 present.
Thank you. So under public comment tonight, we have several. So I see that we have some neighbors from Four Seasons here with us tonight. Thank you for coming. So I did have a conversation earlier today. I don't know if you were all aware of it or not, but the city attorney had talked with the representatives for Four Seasons, and in regards to the water usage, and in regards to that question, which I'm sure almost all of you are here tonight about, correct? So they have agreed to install meters in, so that nobody who has a household of one or two will not be divvied up if there's a household of 5 or 6 and the usage. Pardon me?
Or 8 or 10.
Yeah, or whatever. So I don't know if that helps answer any questions, but I do want to recognize the 2 individuals here that we have that have registered here with us tonight. So Kathleen Broadhacker, is Kathleen here?
Yes.
Okay, would you mind, Kathleen, coming up to the podium here? Just stating your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Kathleen Brodiker. I live at 129 Club Circle in Four Seasons.
And any comments? You're here tonight.
I just feel that it's unfair. They raise our rent every year. We now have to pay for our water and sewer, and they would prefer us to pay for it without having the meters installed, which, like somebody back there said, 8 or 10. Well, I'm a 2-person household, and then there's other homes that have way more than what we have. So they're going to be using more water because of showering and laundry and stuff. And then people are going to be washing or watering lawns because it's part of our lease that we have to maintain our lawns and keep them looking well. And I'm so sorry. And then it's same for garbage pickup. 8 or 10 people are going to generate way more garbage than a household of 2. And I understand that if they want us to have meters, that we're gonna end up paying for them, and I don't feel that that's fair either, because then they're gonna raise our rents again. And when you're on a fixed income as I am, and I know I have a few friends out there that are on limited budgets, it's going to be very hard for us. I mean, it's my husband and I, and we bring home maybe $2,500 a month. That's not a lot, considering we gotta buy groceries and stuff. Excuse me. And I just feel that they need to take that into consideration, because, you know, it's forcing many, many people. There's a lot of houses out there for sale, and I just think that we deserve better treatment than what they're giving us. So, thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Mayor?
Yes.
Sorry. I'm getting text messages that the camera's not on from home people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kathleen. Thank you for coming down here. You bet. You seem to have a glitch in the, huh? We're okay? Okay. I guess that's been corrected. So John Albertine?
Hit him good, John. You know us.
John, thank you. You seem to have a cult following.
Unfortunately.
All right.
Hello, my name is John Albertini. I live at 506 Park Avenue. Most of you came to know me by the fact that I like to play with chalk. Okay? My reason for standing up here right now is because you all are pissed off at one thing or another, and all I ever hear is to me, why are they doing this? Why am I having to do this? I sit out and I draw this chalk on my driveway all last year and this year because people came by with big frowns. And I said, what can I do to change it? I get out, I made beautiful artwork. People come by, they like it, they smile, they're happy. I thought I did my job, but obviously I haven't, because I still got people coming by unhappy. Let me tell you something, you're gonna have to pay something somewhere because they're gonna win. Nobody wants to stand up for the little people. When that park used to be all Chrysler, it was great because everybody was afraid. If Chrysler got pissed off, Belvedere goes broke, so they said, let's take care of them. Now half these people are gone. We're just residents who got suckered into moving in here because we were told it's a place for seniors. It's a place for suckers. Anyways, my statement is, every time you get pissed off, do something about it. Go to the office. Don't tell me. Don't tell your neighbor. Go to the office. Write it down. Give them a complaint. If you flood them with enough complaints, they're going to be so busy trying to deal with your complaints, they ain't going to have time to come up with more reasons to rip you off. Okay?
Well, I asked them for a copy of this new contract because I signed mine 24 and a half years ago. And you know what? They told me I couldn't have it.
Because it wasn't your turn. Okay? And as it is right now, I have to ask you, give me the minute and I'll let you come up. You people need to argue with them. You need to tell them what your problems are. They come out once a week with what I call, well, I can't even say the word. They come out with a golf cart. And I can't say the word, so I'm not going to. But they come out and they articulate all your problems. They write them down and they collect the fines for petty cash. Okay? But yet if you go to them with the exact same problems, like they tell you, you gotta take care of your driveway, it's yours. It isn't mine. I leased it, but okay, I'll take care of it. But then when I ask them about the sidewalks, the sewers are falling in the holes. I fell in one, twisted my ankle, and fell on my shoulder. Are they gonna take care of that? No. I told them they gotta fix it. Oh, well, it's not in the budget this year. My sidewalk was marked since the day I moved in to be replaced. It's still got the marks there, and I've been there 4.5 years. I ask them every year, and they go, see me next year. It's not in the budget. Okay, when they come for this water, this garbage, and this sewer, please turn around and tell them, it's not in the budget. Don't pay it. They're telling you it's part of the rent. You're gonna get fined. Bitch, do something, but just don't sit there. I want your people to go to the office, tell them what you got to say, tell them what you want to hear. Don't let them just bully you around. Please, go to the office. Don't come to me, don't go to your neighbors. Deal with them straight on, don't be afraid. As a group, look at your big group. Take them on. Tell them what you want, but always complain about these things that need to be fixed. And tell them to do it time and time again, till they do. If they get tired of it, tell them, oh, I'm tired of you too, but here we are. Okay, so until we resolve each other's problems, let's just get along, tell them, okay? And the funny part I loved is, once they bought one park, they bought everyone in the neighborhood, so you had nowhere to go. Oh, well, and wait, what happened there? The county let it happen, okay? They let these people buy every mobile home park to isolate us where we had nowhere to go. Okay, so again, I frown on the county for letting that happen. I'm sorry I get loud and angry, but that's just the way I am. My wife told me not to get up here. She's not here today. She's at home watching her father, who's 97 years old. I'm sure at some point she'll find out, but tough. I want to tell you guys, thank you for letting me come up here and scream, but damn it, I saved all these other people from losing their voice.
All right. Thank you, John. Thanks for
you.
coming
I
up.
appreciate the forum.
Appreciate it.
If I can do anything else, please, let me know. 506.
I'll be there later.
Okay.
We talk.
No problem, John, I'll do it for you.
Okay. Also, then next we have Jonathan Febsitz. Jonathan?
Good evening, everyone. I do apologize. I see a lot of you are very unhappy this evening with your water issue. Unfortunately, that's not why I'm up here. As I said, as the mayor said, my name's Jonathan. I live at 112 East 9th Street. My house is a house that is on one of the famous unimproved alleyways that has been cause for some commotion in the past. Tonight, you, the council, will be voting on a list of unimproved alleyways in the city that are needing update. Specifically, my house is on one of these alleyways. I'm here tonight to express my deepest concerns and state my opinion as a taxpayer of the city that I don't think this is the most appropriate action to be taken on this matter. I think this alleyway was specifically being improved to satisfy one person and is being done through political favors. I think that this is financially irresponsible approach that this is going to be taken by the city if it were to pass. Now, I know that this alleyway has caused some issues in the past and the city's looking to resolve it, but I don't think that this situation at this point would be to improve this alleyway. I think the solution would be to vacate this portion of the East 9th Street alleyway and divvy it up among the homeowners that live on it, just like other alleyways have been vacated in the past. This would put this issue to bed once and for all. This goes for all other unimproved alleyways in the city that are not being used. I think that those, along with mine, should be vacated and divvied up among the homeowners that live on them. especially the unimproved alleyways in the city that people have already fenced off and incorporated into their backyards, because there are alleyways that people have already done this to. I think that spending taxpayer dollars to do this is wasting city time, money, and resources. Instead, this money should be used for things like playgrounds, the downtown area, to go towards our schools and public service. Coming from a taxpayer's point of view, it would look bad on the city to spend money that doesn't need to be spent to be wasted on something that's going to benefit one person. At this point, I'm speaking specifically about the alleyway on East 9th Street. The person that wants this alleyway has no need for it. They have no garage that touches the alleyway in their backyard, nor do they have any other structure that needs to be accessed from East 9th Street by way of vehicle. The city would look better in the public's eye if they're bringing in more money by vacating alleyways and collecting the money from property owners instead of spending it in a ridiculous and irresponsible way that's not needed. I would also like to inform everybody that prior to this meeting, there was a Facebook post made about this on how it's being handled by the city and some of the comments and feedback that were given by other members of the community that you as the board serve. Some of these comments include how people think that it's too close to houses, how it's a safety concern, and how it should not be an improved alleyway, along with how, in its given state, does not represent an alleyway. People also expressed that this money should be used for other things in the city, not alleyway improvements that are not needed. Also, personally, we've had other people come out from the city. For example, neighbors, I've had city workers and even our fine police officers come out and express these same points of view. I do have a hefty chunk of comments from this Facebook post that I would like to pass around and I would like everybody to look at. I hope that tonight you'll take what I have had to say into consideration when casting your vote on this situation and consider the financial irresponsibilities that will be going towards the city and taxpayers that will have to fund these alleyways. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Next, we have Kristen Turner.
Oh, hers is a written.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tell you what, we're going to read that one later because that person isn't here. We've got two of them that I will read into the record, but there are people here, I think, in person. And we will recognize them first. Ben, is it Freeman? Hi, Ben.
So my address is 1528 South State Street, and I also live on the 9th Street, or the between 8th and 9th Street alleyway. I currently have a shed structure that sits in the corner of that property. I also have a cement slab I like to park my boat on. Without the alley, I can no longer use either my shed or the slab for my boat. So for me, I would love to see the alley improved. I mean, it's a patch of grass. It's actually half of an alley. So the first three people from 8th Street down, or from the middle of South State Street down to 8th Street have a gravel alley that is somewhat improved. And the people that are from my house, it starts from my house down to Mr. Jonathan's house, is just grass. As in somebody put dirt over the gravel, grew some grass, and called it their yard, is what happened there. So for me, it's unfair that I have to pick and choose some days that I can either haul my boat back there, I can drive my truck back there to park on my slab, because it's either raining, I'm gonna get stuck in the mud, you know. And the other fact is that I can't park my boat and pull straight out. I have to find a way to do a 3-point turnabout to actually leave the alley back out. So I want to make one other point, that About 5 years ago, my kid broke his leg in that alley because it was unimproved in a rut. And I would love to see the alley go through. The only thing I can think of is that why Mr. Jonathan wouldn't want the alley is because it's about 10 feet from his patio door. Other than that, I mean, he had just bought the house, and for me, that alley was already there. It was already city property. He already knew it before he bought the place less than a year ago to this date. So for me, I'd love to see the alley improved and my taxpayer dollars be spent on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Next, we have, it's like James LaPinta. James?
How you doing?
Good, you?
Good. I'm in favor of having a usable, workable alley. I think a system of alleys is a good thing to the community. Not only this generation, generations, upon generations are gonna be serviced by that alley. I've been through there, I've seen it. That was an alley before they even built that current residence on that corner presently. There was already an alley there. I remember going through that alley. I've been here since the late 60s, and there's many alleys I haven't even been on in this town. That's how many, but I think they're workable. I think to get access to areas that are pretty much inaccessible. If he's showing me, I see there's a large tree, it has a split. It's hanging over property, it's gonna fall, damage property, there's no way to get it out of there, it's gotta go. That tree's gotta go. It's gonna crack any time, whether it's rain, it ain't gonna give you a warning. You're not gonna get a tornado warning on the tree fall. It's gonna fall, sunshine, wind blowing or not. That tree's ready to go, it's gonna go, and it's a big tree. And I don't want my kids underneath it. But anyway, a usable alley, it's a good thing. That's an excellent improvement to sell feature to that, each and every individual property along that alley. The only theft, the only thing that is greedy or petty, and I read some comments on Facebook too. I heard, people pointing fingers. Guess what? The greed started when somebody said they're going to plant a tree on that alley, and we're going to vacate this alley. What? For 5 feet of land on each side, so you get 5 feet extra. He's got a nice patio there. It'd still be a nice patio, even with that alley going through there. It still could be a beautiful, It doesn't look like it's been improved. They knew that was an alley when they built that house and they put that patio in. So that's, common sense says that was taxpayers' money. The only theft that occurred, and is occurring, is to the taxpayer. That's all I got to say. You can have alleys, have them. I think they're usable, I think they're workable, and I think they're good for all.
Thank you, James. Okay, Lanny Kruckenberg. Lanny?
My name is Lanny Kruckenberg, and I live at 1532 South State Street. I own the 2 lots that have the alley go behind. They go behind, which is next to Jonathan. Jonathan bought the house knowing that there was an alley there, and if you didn't know there was an alley there, you should have looked it up. Why are you buying a house that's next to an alley and then complaining about the alley? I've been begging for this alley for the last, to improve the alley for the last 18 years. The previous owners sold the house. They knew that there was an alley there. The branches wasn't cut. When the house got sold, the branches got cut and it got access to go out. Now, I don't know why you're complaining. Either it stays grass or it gets improved. When I bought the house at 1532, I had it surveyed and they said there was an alley. Just pass this around. My houses are the two in the black, and this is State Street. So Jonathan's house is here. So I want the alley. I have a 50-foot plot that I put of cement to park a 30-foot camper on. The only way I can get the camper in is in one way and go out the other way. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to back all the way down a whole block with a camper. I'd like to put a shed out back, a garage out back, and get more of my stuff in. I need an alley. I bought a house with an alley. It's been an alley for 7 years. I don't understand why it hasn't been approved. Any questions?
All right, thanks for coming down, Laney.
I have a question. Does the alley, when you have an alley adjacent to your property, does that reflect your tax bill, that you're taxed? Do you get more money, do you get charged more because you have an alley in your back of your property?
Does it decrease the value if you take the alley away? Can I throw dirt on State Street, grow grass, and call it my yard?
We understand what you're saying. We want to try and hold this to public comment
I just want to know.
from up here. If you want to come up, did you register? Okay.
I just wanted to know if you are charged more in your property taxes because there's an alley accessing the back of your property. Because I have a property on Oakley Street, and in the back, there's an alley that runs all the way. And they proved it last year, they paved it, which was awesome, because we used that alley going back and forth. And I just wondered if, on my tax bill, if I'm charged more because I have that alley.
I don't have an answer to that. I would imagine that would be an answer for the assessor. But I just don't have an answer to that.
But if it's not your property, you're not charged taxes, then the person that threw grass seed and planted the tree, they're taking over that land, and they're calling that their property. Are they paying more taxes on that because they're using that?
No,
Is the city not getting money for that land that they're using?
Well, I think we understand what you're saying there, but in this instance, we have a specific 3 alleys that are on here on the agenda tonight. So I understand what you're saying, but that's really not specific for tonight. But certainly, if you have specific questions, as we go forward with our alleys that we are going to make changes to, and what have you, then certainly come up and, get on the agenda. But tonight, we have 3 specific alleys that we have on the agenda, and we've got a long list to go through. So we need to stay with that agenda. So with that being said, I've got 2 letters that I would like to read. One is from Kristen Turner. And she says, to the Belvedere City Council members, I regret that I am unable to attend the meeting in person and speak about the alley improvements on tonight's agenda. However, I would like to submit this letter in support of improving the alley located behind my home at 1528 South State Street. My husband and I are purchasing the property, and the only access we have to our backyard is via a currently badly neglected, unmaintained alley. We have a cement slab in the backyard that we would like to either install a shed or build a garage on in the future and need the alley to access it. There is no other way to get in my backyard other than this alley. People living on both South State and Whitney Boulevard have garages on the alley or would like to build one, but the alley is in such disrepair that is not feasible. The north end at 8th Street has been neglected for decades and has become gravel and sand. So bad that my young son, while riding his bicycle through the alley, slipped on the gravel and broke his leg. The alley has finally been opened up at the south end of 9th Street after the city finally cut the tree branches that had been blocking it for years and was in violation of city ordinances. Although it is legal to drive on the grass-covered portion, it is not convenient, nor is it conducive to driving through mud and ruts that have and will continue to accumulate at the end. I cast my vote for my current alderman, Marcia Freeman, who is fulfilling her promise to the neighbors on the alley by having this addressed and fighting for us all. She is and has been our voice. The only opposition to my knowledge are the two homes that face 9th Street. The alley does not run behind their homes. They have decided to screw the rest of us by blocking it first with tree branches and now with vehicles at the entrance. These people have taken over city property and claimed it is private property and part of their yard. It is not. Never has been, and it never will be their yard. It is not private property. It is, always has been, and will always be city-owned property that should be maintained by the city. The city has an obligation to the taxpayers to maintain their property, and this alley should be no exception. It is sad that it has taken this long. I ask that you vote yes to improve this alley as it should be. Thank you, Kristen Turner. And I also have another letter here to read from Ramiro and Tammy Lumbreras. Belvedere Mayor and City Council, I am writing this in response to the alley discussion on the city's agenda tonight. I live at 1508 South State Street, and my alley has been recommended by the Public Works Director for improvement from 8th Street through 9th Street. I fully support this recommendation and am pleased that my aldermen have finally been able to have this addressed. Some time ago, I had a tree fall on the outside of my back fence and was told by the city at that time that I had to have it immediately removed at my expense as it was blocking the throughway alley or I would be fined. So this is indeed a throughway alley and always has been. The fact that the people at the 9th Street end have been blocking it for years has been infuriating to those of us who reside here. Who do you think they are, and why have they gotten away with stealing city property for so long? This alley belongs to the taxpayers, and the residents who live here would like to take it back from those who have taken it from us for all these years. I have a trailer I park in the back of my property, and it will be extremely beneficial for me to be able to access the alley from both directions. I fully intend to use the alley once the improvements have been made. This alley has been so severely neglected for so many years that even the 8th Street end has deteriorated to a point of gravel and sand. The city has an obligation to the taxpayers to maintain their property, and this alley should be no exception. I ask you as a resident of the alley and a tax-paying citizen to please vote yes to fully improve the alley located between South State Street and Whitney Boulevard from 8th to 9th Street. Thank you, Ramiro and Tammy Lumbreras. And that is all, I believe, the public comment we have. So with that being read, we'll move to public forum, and we do not have any public forum this evening. We'll move to finance and personnel, unfinished business. We have none. Item number 2, finance and personnel, new business. Under A, NIMAC 2021 electric aggregation. In the aldermen and alderwomen's packet, we have from NIMAC a chart regarding electric aggregation within the city of Belvedere. And do we have any questions regarding this chart?
And Mr. Mayor, with us this evening on the phone, we have David Hoover, who's the executive director for NIMAC, which is our, for lack of a better word, consultant in handling our electric aggregation matters.
Okay, welcome, David. Can you hear us?
I can, but barely, but thank you very much for having me.
Okay, would you like to make any comments regarding this? I know you were in my office along with the city attorney and had spoken about our options with the city of Belvedere with electric aggregation. And if you could share some of those with the committee, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, if I can, let me just give you a brief overview. Municipal aggregation was set up by the state of Illinois for the municipalities to shop, basically negotiate for more favorable electric rates for residents' home electric bills. The city has been managing a program like this since 2012, and we've saved the residents through this program several hundreds of dollars over those years through lower electric rates that they've negotiated through the program. The last time, we just recently went out to bid, and the lowest bid that we were able to find essentially matches the ComEd rate. We were not able to procure a rate lower than the ComEd rate. Therefore, we recommended an alternative program. That alternative program features a residential rate that simply matches the ComEd rate. As the ComEd rate changes, this rate changes. So the residents' rates will mirror exactly the ComEd rate. In exchange for that, the suppliers will be able to make civic contribution payments to the municipality. And I think you see that in the chart in front of you. And essentially, if you were to select, the payments are correlated to an option to do renewable energy. But should the municipality decide not to do any additional green energy to the current mix, then that would maximize the payments to the municipality, and the suppliers would make a payment. You can see it there, roughly $120,000 a year, or $10,000 a month. This is just an incentive for the municipality to select the respective suppliers. And the funds would be available to the municipality for whatever purpose you deem appropriate. They're unrestricted and they are contractual. The suppliers will make these offers good for 1, 2, or 3 years. So if you were to select hypothetically a 3-year term with MC Squared, they would pay you the $120,000 annually for each of years 1, year 2, and year 3 for a total $360,000. Let me just stop there, hit the highlights, and then let me just see what questions may be percolating.
Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So you said that this is basically not going to save any of our residents any money, that you're just going to match the ComEd rate. So other than the civic contribution to the city, what would be the incentive for residents to opt into this?
There is none. There is none. This is just, we did shop for lower fixed rates for the residents. That was the first option, like we have had in the last several years. But Belvedere, like nearly all of our municipalities that we've priced in the last 2 years, we are not able to find a rate lower than the ComEd rate. So the option is to return everybody to ComEd and suspend the program, where residents would obviously pay the ComEd rate. But this program essentially does the same thing for residents. The only difference is that the municipality is able to receive some financial remuneration to offset costs or start some new projects in town on behalf of the residents.
Alderman Freeman, continue.
Thank you. So it's basically a win for the city and a break even for the residents. How will this affect our industrial?
So the municipal aggregation program, as set up by the state of Illinois, only impacts, the only commercial accounts that are included are very small commercial accounts. I say it's roughly the size of a dry cleaner. Anything larger than that is excluded from our municipal aggregation program I believe the state figured out that the bigger businesses are able to figure this out themselves, and they only make these rates available through municipal aggregation to very small commercial entities and residents.
Thank you.
Any other questions, David? Essentially, Mr. Hoover, in the past, we have been able to compete or actually come up with a lower price per kilowatt hour for than what ComEd provides. And is this the first year that you haven't been able to do that? And if so, why?
Yeah, great question. This is the first time that for the renewal. I think we did a renewal 3 years ago. And at the time, we were able to come in with a rate lower than ComEd. Although as ComEd has dropped it, your rate is just barely above the ComEd rate now, hardly noticeable, but slightly above the ComEd rate. But again, over the last 10 years, or 8 years, there's been ample savings in this program. The question, and again, I'll just say again that the Belvedere is like approximately 68 of the last 71 bids that we've managed for other municipalities. In that, out of those last 68, we haven't been able to find a rate lower than ComEd. It's just the exception. We've had about 3 municipalities where we've been able to do that. All I can tell you is that the ComEd rate over the last 2 years has dropped, and now is hovering right at the market rates. We test the market. We go to our suppliers, and they're pricing at the market. And I can tell you that the first 5 years of this program, we had incredible savings. Roughly 25% vis-a-vis the ComEd rate. At the first 5 years, the ComEd rate was locked in at a very high rate. And so as a result, when we came in, we were able to achieve savings. For the last about 3 years, the rates have been, marginally better. And so now so the ComEd rate has improved, over the last 5, 6 years vis-a-vis over the last 3 or 4 years, vis-a-vis the market rates. And I wish I could explain why, but I just don't have access to that information.
Okay, thank you. Alderman Fleury?
How often do you make these bids? Is it a yearly thing, or how often is it?
When we go to bid, we offer bids consisting of 1, 2, or 3 year terms. And so the current program is coming due. And so as you see in these, you have bids of 1, 2, and 3 years. And so I'm sorry to answer your question, maybe I didn't. So when the term is up, that's when we go into the renewal. It's like an insurance renewal. When your renewal's up is when you go test the market to see what the rates are. But again, over the last 2 years, it's very rare that we're able to beat the ComEd rate from all different municipalities with different usage profiles across all of Northern Illinois.
Right. So, like, if we say agreed to do this civic contribution for 1 year, and then after that you're able to get a lower rate, then we could go back to that previous program where it saves the taxpayers money.
That is correct. At every renewal that we do, we always first test the fixed rate to see if it's available in the marketplace. And we've done that. And again, our pricing came in right at the ComEd rate. And so as a result, since residents, all we can do is match the ComEd rate, we figured this was a more attractive alternative.
Thank you.
But to answer your question, yes, you could do a 1 year rate and rebid it, and then we could figure out at that point in time if a fixed rate was available or if you wanted to renew this program. You have that option, absolutely.
Thank you. Alderman Snow?
So on that premise, if we were to go with the one-year program, there's no guarantee that next year, when this goes out to rebid, that we would even wind up with any kind of incentive going with MC Square or any of the other entities at that point. So it's all a big crapshoot in some regards as to whether or not we want to lock in savings or having contributions for the civic contributions for 3 years or 2 or even 1, that we may, if we decide to go out and renegotiate 1, 2, and or 3 years later, we may not have access to that again. Is that a fair assumption?
That is fair. And just to reiterate, if you were to rebid next year, the numbers may be different. They may be higher, they may be lower. But that's a reflection of the market and how the suppliers are able to procure pricing vis-a-vis the ComEd rate. And that's what generates, that's the basis of their bids. So, yes, so if you have a bird in the hand. If you chose to go for 3 years, you would have that, it would be done, and it would be taken care of for 3 years. So you have the option, and this is a 3-year lock option. You also have the 1 and the 2-year option. And, I know what you're going to probably say, hey, you're the expert, what do you think? And what I would just say is that we have seen a narrowing between the market and the ComEd rate over the last basically 4 or 5 years. And over the last 2 years, we've seen the ComEd rate at or even a touch below the marketplace. So it's trending down. I see no reason for that to change. And so I would be inclined, if anybody asked my opinion, to accept this for a 2 or a 3-year term. The other reason I would suggest a multiple-year term is every time we make a change to the program, letters go out to the residents informing them of the change. Anytime we do that, there are a number, the letter goes out on city letterhead, and some folks who don't quite understand it pick up the phone and call City Hall. It's not an incredible hardship, but staff does take some of those phone calls. And as a result, if you were to do a multiple-year contract, you would only have calls during the first year. You wouldn't have letters and therefore calls in the second year or the third year. So from staff's point of view, our sense is that a multiple-year arrangement would be, if it's a break-even, that would be a little bit favorable to consider the multiple-year option.
Mr. Hoover, if ComEd's rates go significantly lower by chance than our contract price, is there any opt-out for anybody?
There's an opt-out for anybody at any time for any reason with no fee. But again, let me just be clear. If the ComEd rate drops, our rate drops. So there's no chance that the ComEd rate will drop under our program. If the ComEd rate drops down to 4 cents, our program will go down to 4 cents. If the ComEd rate goes to 8 cents, our program will go to 8 cents. We match the ComEd rate every single month with all the variations each month. And so there is no chance, so the residents are just charged the ComEd rate. Won't be higher, won't be lower.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Hoover? So, historically, how has this contract, I know the mayor inks the contract.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me. We adopted electric aggregation quite some time ago. Then actually two contracts ago, in 2014, the City Council adopted Ordinance 206H, which continued electric aggregation with the city and renewed that ordinance and authorized the mayor that was designated to sign a contract without further action by the corporate authorities. Rather than though go ahead and redo it this time because we're talking about significant change in the way the program works, we want to bring it back to you. So if the City Council wishes to move forward with one of the options as proposed by NIMAC, I recommend a motion by the city council to authorize and direct the mayor as designee to execute a contract, basically of your choosing. In this case, it's up to the council. Obviously, the biggest return on investment, so to speak, is the MC squared 1, 2, or 3-year contract for $120,000 per year, which generates the greatest income for the city. So I guess that's what I would recommend, and along with Mr. Hoover, I'd suggest a 2 or 3-year term, because frankly, by the time you get this thing inked and done, you're going back out to bid and having to send out notices to all your residents again. So it'd be appropriate to have a motion to authorize and direct the mayor to execute a contract with MC squared for electric aggregation for either a 2 or 3-year term.
I'll make the motion for 3 years.
Motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Porter.
And just so you know, Mr. Mayor, this may come back in resolution form. I'll take a look at it and see how best we want to memorialize it.
Okay. Alderman Snow.
So at this point, though, in order to maximize the payout for the civic contribution, do we need to stipulate the 0% on the green energy?
That's fine.
I'd make that stipulation.
I understood it to be that, but okay.
And to be clear, it's 0% above the state mandated green energy requirements, which, just so you know, right now are approximately 17%. So all power has to be 17% green. That's in there, but the 0 is no additional green above the city mandate, a state mandate, excuse me.
Okay. Does the second, Alderman Porter, agree with that? Okay. So we have a motion and a second then on the floor for a 3-year contract with NIMAC as stated. If there are no more questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you, Mr. Hoover.
Thank you all. It's a pleasure working with you since, well, probably about 15 years now. So we appreciate that, and we will be moving forward. Appreciate it. Have a good evening. Thank you.
You too, thank you.
Bye.
All right, number 3 on the agenda, public safety, unfinished business. We have none. 4, public safety, new business, police department update. Chief Woody?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to bring the council up to speed on some things that the police department handled over the last month. May 3rd, police department handled a bank robbery at Midland States Bank, 600 South State Street. Belvedere Department detectives worked with FBI Rockford and Rockford Police Department to identify a Rockford suspect. Approximately 4 days after our bank robbery, with work that Detective Delavan had done along with the FBI, they were able to obtain an arrest warrant and search warrant for both the suspect and the suspect's home, able to identify evidence in the suspect's home that linked that suspect to both our bank robbery as well as a bank robbery in Rockford. My understanding, according to the U.S. Attorney, is that we will be seeing an indictment on this suspect for Belvedere's bank robbery tomorrow. But we're kind of at the mercy of the U.S. Attorney's office on when they decide to put out that information. So, the department also handled a robbery of an elderly gentleman in the 600 block of West Lincoln. Detectives' investigation led to 4 suspects being arrested, 3 Rockford and 1 Moline resident, all for the charge or offense of robbery. You may remember March 9th, the department handled a robbery at the fast fuel. Ultimately, an investigation with that robbery as well as the subway robbery on April 11th resulted in the arrest of a Rockford resident for aggravated robbery and robbery. On lighter news, the department also took place in Build-A-Bike through our community policing program. So we donated a bike to one of the local children in the area. That was fun. Myself, Officer Blankenship, and Deputy Chief Wallace took part in that. So we had our last Citizens Police Academy and had a great turnout. Wanted to thank the aldermen and aldermen-to-be at the time for their attendance. Always look forward to members of the community, as well as encourage any aldermen currently that want to take place in that and learn a little bit about your police department. So those of you in attendance, thank you. For those of you that are future participants, we look forward to having you. The next one, next CPA class, we'll be looking at fall. We don't have hard dates, but typically once we narrow that down, we'll put it on our Facebook, and people can look to our Facebook for that information. The new aldermen and anybody that might be interested in a tour of the public safety building, you're more than welcome. Please just get a hold of me and we'll go ahead and make those arrangements. I extend that to anybody on the council. So, and virtually anybody in the community, really. You want to come up, take a tour of the public safety building, you're more than welcome. Please just contact the police department through our community policing program, and we'll get you in touch with Officer Blankenship, who is our community policing coordinator. Our COSAP officer has been selected. Officer Michelle Schwartz put in for it and was selected, and she'll be working with the health department to further our goal of opioid intervention. So wanted to thank the council for your support in that as well, so thank you. We are currently in the process for taking officers that are interested in being a canine handler to replace Officer Parker. Currently, we have 4 officers interested. The next step of in that process will be interviewing each of those officers and then ultimately making our selection. So when we have that information, I'll bring that forward to you at the next update. The Fire and Police Commission has given the police department the ability and flexibility to do open lateral hiring process. And what that means is essentially we don't have to necessarily advertise in order to take applicants for laterals. And that just will make the process more efficient. Doesn't mean that we won't advertise, because there will be, times and places where that's going to be appropriate. But our experience this last time around is we've had people interested in putting in applications, and we've had to wait until the Fire and Police Commission gave us the authorization in order to take those applications. Essentially, they've given us the flexibility to go ahead and take those applications, even if a list has been generated. So. Update on body cams. I got word today that Panasonic has just created the server that the council had authorized to purchase for $10,000. So the next step in that will be get that server to our IT, get the IT department to install the server, and then we will go about sending one of our vehicles to Tri-City to have equipment installed into the vehicle, and then we'll have an officer test that particular equipment, make sure everything's functioning. Once it's functioning, then we will go ahead and outfit the rest of our fleet with that equipment in order to be using our body cams. Unfortunately, we're kind of going to be at the mercy of Tri-City when we can schedule all those vehicles and get all that equipment installed. In the process, we'll be developing and finalizing a policy on body cams, and ultimately, once all of that is complete, we will roll that out. And then the last thing on my update is our K9 Shep has been scheduled for surgery on May 26th. Once that's complete, we'll look at roughly a 6 to 8 week recovery schedule. Any questions?
Alderwoman Frank.
Can we go back to the canine officer? There's 4 that are interested. Would we use Shep as the dog? As a canine?
Nope, Shep already has a handler, Zach
Okay.
Reese.
So do we need to buy a new dog?
Yes, yes, we
Okay.
will.
And then when would we start the training for that?
That's going to depend on when FM Canine in Michigan has openings for trainings. Currently, they have dogs available, but at this point, we don't have a date for training. So.
Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you. So when you and I last spoke, you had said that the mayor was able to sign and submit the grant for the body camera reimbursement on time. So I was just wondering, do you know about the time frame to hear back from that?
Nope, I asked Deputy Chief Wallace what his experience was, because he's the one responsible for submitting the previous grant applications, and it just depends on when the state gets around to it. So we don't have a hard date as far as what to expect or when to expect a response from the state. But they have accepted the application, and roughly we are requesting approximately $33,000 in reimbursement.
Continue.
Thank you. And then my other question, I've been hearing of a rash of car thefts in the Farmington Fields area. I'm assuming that our detectives are on top of that.
Yeah, our detectives handle the auto thefts, and they investigate each one of those cases, yes.
Any other questions for Chief Woody? All right. Let's go to item B very quickly here. So the purchase of the night vision device for SWAT, everybody had received a memo regarding that for Chief Woody, from Chief Woody. So I guess I would entertain a motion to authorize the purchase of the EOTech L3 Warrior Systems M914A night vision device with Neurontis night vision helmet mount and adapter for a total cost of $5,004 using funds budgeted in the equipment line item 01-5-210-8200. A motion by Alderman Snow, second by Alderman Fleury. Discussion. Alderwoman Freeman.
Thank you. So this is just a single device that it looks from the pictures in this packet that attaches to a firearm, or so we only need one of these.
No, this is a similar device as the one that we're requesting. It's not exactly the same, but it's very close to being the same thing. It attaches to our bulletproof helmets that our SWAT officers wear, and ultimately we have requested an arm or adapter that attaches to the helmet. This attaches to the arm, and then ultimately when the operator needs the night vision, they can rotate it down. When they don't need it, they can rotate it up. It's compatible with the sights that are on our officers' rifles. So it gives them the ability to see in the dark. No, my goal is to outfit the entire team going forward, but given the nature of the cost, trying to spread that cost out over a period of time, trying to essentially be mindful of the financial expense. But no, my goal going forward would be to request to outfit the entire team eventually.
Okay. Thank you. Alderman Mulhall, I thought I saw your hand go up. No?
No, it was for the motion.
Okay. Any other comments? Any other questions? Alderwoman Frank?
Thank you, Mayor. is there some way that we can insure these, as expensive as they are?
Yeah, in the paperwork, they come with a 1-year warranty with an option to 2 or to 3, but we did not, or I did not put in the request for the 2 to 3 year additional warranty on these.
Okay, anybody else?
Am I too late to ask a question?
Actually, ma'am, this is discussion for the council. What,
It's just a quick one.
what does it pertain to?
To the mobile home park.
Oh, we're gonna go to that right next, okay? Give me just a second.
I'm sorry, but I won't be able to walk up there. I have a broken hand.
Okay, well, you don't have to.
Huh?
You won't have to.
Oh, thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second then on the floor. If there's no other discussion, authorizing the purchase of the night vision device for SWAT. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passed. We're going to deviate from our agenda here just for a minute. We're going to go to under under item A, the resale of the water mobile home parks. I apologize, I didn't think our discussion up to this point would last this long, so we'll interrupt the agenda unless there's an objection, if there's any objections. Hearing none, we'll just, we'll go to the resale of water at mobile home park at Four Seasons. And I know Attorney Drella had sent a letter on behalf of the city to Four Seasons regarding of the resale of city water. And so with that being said, I'll let him address his conversation that was a follow-up.
So as a bit of history, I did receive a phone call from a resident of Four Seasons, bringing to light with the city the first indication that the landlord was going to try and rebuild the tenants for the water. The reality is, I think we all know that, they've been doing that since he moved in. They just built it in the rent. What they want to do is bill you separately for it. And it has been my opinion, and still my opinion, that the city's code prohibits doing that unless, of course, they install water meters. And the reason why is our code says that they can only rebill a tenant at the city's rate. They can't make money off of it at the city's rate. Well, the only way you do that is by having a meter on the unit, because if you try to average across all the units, the people with 2 people living in it are going to be paying more per gallon of water than the people with 4 people living in the unit. You're not charging the city's rate. Several years ago, Greenview Estates wanted to do the same thing. And we brought that up to the attention point of our code, and this is when they were under prior ownership, not the current owners. The current owners own both parks now. And they put the meters in. The landlord at Four Seasons didn't like my decision and wanted to try and convince us that, no, they could just average it out. So what I've done is I've drafted language that amends section 155 of the city's code, as well as 114-234. Think of it as really just a clarification, not a change to existing law. But it makes it abundantly clear that if a mobile home park wishes to resell water, in other words, to bill their tenants for the water they're using, they must install a meter. It doesn't just apply to Four Seasons, it applies to any mobile home park in the city of Belvedere. After seeing that on the agenda, that's when I got the phone call from the attorney saying, oh, we've ordered the meters already, surprisingly. So the recommendation would be to amend sections 114, 155, and 114-234 to read as set forth in the Exhibit A, which I attached to my memo. And essentially what it does is it strikes a reference to 114-235 in section 114-155, which I just realized was a scrivener's error in the original ordinance. It shouldn't have been there. And amends 114-234 that deals specifically with mobile home parks to provide in addition that, quote, a mobile home park rebuilding its tenants for water shall install a meter for such residential unit.
So with that being said, basically this does ensure that each unit is only paying for the water that you actually use. And so it's my understanding that they have agreed that they will put meters in so that, you know, they don't try to hand those costs down to individuals based upon, you know, dividing it up by the number of individuals that live within the park.
Well, my question is, my neighbor man, and two of them, got the water bill from the park. One had to pay $44, the other one paid $70. And, because they had to sign the new contract, but they don't have meters.
No, we understand that. They are gonna have meters. They're not gonna be able,
Question is,
they're,
do I have to pay mobile home water until I get a meter?
Yeah. Because they're saying, if I could add to that, that's why I said it so wrong. You don't pay, you are fine. So the 40 or 70, then they add on top of that, and then they add on top of that, and then they add on top of that, till
Right.
you don't go by my, pick up the dandelion besides the water, we'll just give a picture. And that's what they do.
That's with the box rent too. That ain't gonna go down when we have to pay our water.
I mean, and they have now broken out 3 ways: sewer, trash, and water, on top of our yearly increase. And in my case, my husband and I, on Social Security, those 3, besides,
Welcome to my world.
right, was $125. And I'm sitting there going, and you want me to put plants in, you know, to make it look nice, and people now refer to it as a compound versus a complex.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I realize that
See, I don't
the young lady
mind
that,
pay city water. I don't mind paying my city water, but I don't wanna pay, you know, the trailer park and the city water too. And I don't wanna have no meter. I'm one person on Social Security. I cannot afford to pay what they're asking with the way they're doing it.
and Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but as you know,
I want
folks, if you hang on a
Wait-
second.
Wait a second, we need to just have one person talk at a time, okay? Let's see if,
I want the meter before I start paying. I'd rather
I-
have it the way I sign my contract.
I understand, hold on just a second, let's see what, let the city attorney potentially answer that.
The first thing I want to say is, I get this complaint almost weekly. When we allow people to talk from the back of the room, the people at home can't hear you, and they can't hear on the replays. So I'm sure, obviously, we don't want you to try and walk up here with a broken hip, but anybody else that wants to speak, Mr. Mayor, perhaps we can have them come forward and use the microphone. With respect to the question, one, I can't give anybody legal advice. I'm the city's attorney. I don't practice private law. That's just me being a lawyer and covering my rear end. That being said, the most difficult part about living in a mobile home park is you usually own, sometimes you rent, but you usually own a mobile home that is not mobile sitting on somebody else's property that you are renting.
Right.
And it's governed by contract law. There is an act called the Illinois Mobile Home Act, which is enforced by the Attorney General's office typically. That's very short. It doesn't really have much in there really to protect tenants' rights, though there are a few things. And yes, just like any landlord relationship, once your rent agreement has expired by its own terms, they have the right, just like you have the right, to try to negotiate different terms.
But see, mine
And those-
doesn't expire.
And again, I don't know what your contract and specifics are. I'm talking generally. But if your contract has not expired, you need to take that up with the landlord and point out that it's not expired and point out why you should not be paying these things. I've never seen your rent agreement, so I don't know what it says.
Our rental agreement is 2 pages, their new one is 39.
I heard that.
And they even tell you what size you how much you can sell it for in this new contract. But I
Well-
don't wanna be paying, you know, the city water bill like the other guy did, and still be paying the mobile home park.
No, you can only be paid for water once.
She's saying it's in a contract. So the language on your rate, increase, did that specifically state a raise for water? Did it state that there was a raise, an increase in your rent for water?
Yeah, because every year our rent goes up 25 bucks.
They're gonna pay
Now, how we
5%.
can go on as for it,
Yeah.
because within 2 years, it's gonna be 700 bucks. Everybody's gonna move out of there. Because I told the owners when they first moved there, okay, when they sold it to these people, I told the one lady that moved to McChesney Park, I told her, I said, you know, you guys are gonna have everybody pay every single year, 25 bucks. People are gonna be moving out of here real fast. And guess what's happening? People are moving out there. There's people that's moving out, left their trailers there. Not even paying lot rent or nothing, they just left their trailers sitting there, have one car sitting in the driveway. They'll come once in a great while, move the car around, have it facing the trailer. Another month later, they'll turn it around, face it the other way, just to make them look like somebody's living in that trailer, and there's nobody there. And they're not paying lot rent, nothing. So people are moving out there, the ones that can't sell their trailers because it's getting all over on Facebook, how that Four Seasons mobile home park is. And nobody's wanting to move out there. I've
Well,
been seeing it, I've been reading it, I mean,
Yeah.
I keep telling them, the lot rate keeps going up, people are moving out, and that's what's happening.
Well, keep in mind, ma'am, that, all we can do here right now is we can control the water as far as your build by ensuring, which we did, that they have to install meters. And they've agreed to that. They've agreed that they will install meters. In that respect, that's what we can legally do, and they've agreed upon that. So, you will only be paying then, they will not be dividing it up and charging you as they had been in the past.
They were gonna pay 15% of the water bill that came into the mobile home park.
That's just for the office itself.
And then the rest of it gets split equally between everybody that lives there, no matter how many people live in your house.
Right. Well, evidently, they've changed their mind on that. So, and this recommended motion that we have with changes to our sections of ordinance will ensure that. So,
I thank you, I'm sorry for interrupting.
it's all right.
So it
Thank-
makes people pissed off when they live at that place.
Yeah.
It just makes them mad. They can't hold on, lower their lot rent when we get our water bill. They'll keep raising it, our water bills and stuff, we still got to pay water bill. How are we gonna afford it? I've been there since 1996. I don't even got my mobile home paid off, because I can't afford it. I'm still paying it monthly. And plus the lot rent going up, how am I supposed to pay my car insurance, mobile home insurance, gas, electric, Comcast? I mean,
Well, I hope that this action that the council takes tonight will ensure that you're not going to pay anybody else's bill other than what you've used on usage.
If you don't mow your lawn in the time, they come with a little cart every day, and if you don't mow your lawn, it's a $50 fine. When they want you to mow it.
you don't mow your grass, you don't weed, you don't do this, you don't do that, you get fined $50, it don't matter. Oh, if you don't fertilize, okay, they will do it, charge you $50. And another month, if it didn't kill the dandelions, they'll come back, do it again, charge you another $50.
Okay, well,
Plus, how can you afford getting the fertilizer to the yard when your lot rent keeps going up every year, and you ain't got the money for nothing out there?
And we don't
And they
own
don't
the yard.
understand to not to keep raising that lot rent. I know, but it's just,
okay.
it's just ridiculous out there.
Well, I understand your frustration. I do know that, this action here, at least, they've agreed to go ahead and put meters out there, and hopefully, they'll be prudent about how soon they put them in, and we'll be able to follow that, so.
If they don't put the meters in for a couple of years,
No, I understand what you're
who
saying.
am I paying?
That's part of you, yeah. Okay, Alderman Porter, if we can have a little bit of decorum, please, that'd be great.
I'm just curious, who's installing these water meters? Is our water department installing them, or are they being privately installed?
Privately installed by the landlord. When Greenview did it, they forgot to ask for inspections, so we had to go back and re-inspect after the fact, but it is pursuant to inspection, but it's done by the landlord.
Alderman Snow.
And this might address to the attorney, whether or not he thinks, again, do we need to waive the 2-week layover to make sure that this is gonna be implemented, and them all of a sudden back out? Just tossing it out there just as a possibility, just so we don't.
You can if you want, but there's actually no real urgency on it. They know it's going to be an ordinance. 2 weeks isn't going to hurry them up one bit or another. According to the attorney I spoke to this morning, they've already ordered the meters. It's not like we're going to order. They have ordered them already.
Anybody else? Did you, Alderwoman Freeman?
Thank you. So with the meters going up, will they not just be getting a regular water and sewer bill like all the other residents do in Belvedere, because it's a Belvedere?
No, they're not getting a city meter at all. The meter that the city has at the site, there's actually 2 of them, one for the older portion of the park and one for the newer. And I got it right because I see Brent nodding his head yes. But we bill the mobile home park as we always have. And historically, what they have done there is, I assume, budgeted, just like we do a budget, based upon the prior year's water usage, and they spread that through the tenants' leases. They just mark up their rent to cover the water costs. So it's basically charged to the tenant through their lease as part of their rent. What they want to do now is put it separately on the bill, and a bill for the extra usage. So they will go out and get a meter that the landlord will read, and then assess the usage to the tenant utilizing our city rates.
So,
Go ahead, continue.
so can we not change that so that the city sends the water and sewer bills? Because how do we know that the mobile home park isn't overcharging the residents and just putting this much, saying that this is what you used when they didn't really use that much, and overcharge these people because it's not monitored by our public works?
That's not really feasible because we don't own any of the system within the park. Our system ends at the meters at the mobile home park. We have no control. We do not own any of the pipes or any of the infrastructure in that park. Essentially, our jurisdiction as far as our water system stops at the meters that they installed where we build them for our water.
When Greenview Estates went through this process several years ago, we had some residents out there that would forward copies of the billing information that they had acquired, just for confirmation that, from what we could tell through the appearances, that they were billing and being charged the same rates that the city charged. There was a question earlier, what the city charge currently. It's $1.57 per 100 cubic feet on the water, and it's $2.46 on the sewer. And that's per 100 cubic feet. 100 cubic feet equals about 748 gallons of water is what that computes to. So when they did that, then we were able to check and confirm that the rates were applicable to what they were doing. But like the city attorney said, everything out there within the mobile home park is all private. We have no jurisdiction there at all.
Yeah. Alderwoman Freeman?
If they want to double it, they can double it?
No.
No, ma'am.
No, they can't resell our water at a profit.
Okay.
And the sewer, your sewer usage, your sewer bill is based on your water usage. So whatever the meter reading is, you're charged that amount of usage on both water and sewer.
Alderwoman Freeman?
So, there is no way for us to have access to those meters to be sure that these people are only being charged the city rate? There's like no oversight, at all?
Well, like I said, when Greenview went through the steps, we had residents in Greenview that would forward that information to us, and we were able to overview, and I would suspect that we'll have that same scenario here as well.
Okay, so we need residents to keep on top of that with our Public Works Department?
All right. Any other discussion? So we have a motion and a second on the floor, basically.
Another question.
Do we still have to pay for the water now? Or do we wait until our meters come? Because when we did it, we signed the contract, okay? And what they did, they said that we would be charged, on our lot, on your lot fee, right? On the lot fee. And we have been paying the money for the water. And they said that it's when you're, what is it, no. When you move in, that's your date of the new contract and how you're going to pay your water bill. So they sent on our bill, the water bill, that we had to pay so much money. Now, I wanna know, is that gonna stop now until we get the meters, or do we have to continue paying that?
So we can't really answer that for you, because that comes down to your legal relationship with your landlord. You're gonna have to look at your individual leases, and talk to the landlord and determine how you want to proceed with that at this point.
They told us though, if we didn't sign it, it doesn't matter. It's still binding, it's still binding. There's gotta be some legal mumbo jumbo with this.
Okay.
Another hand up.
Oh, Kathleen?
Yes, I was just wondering, so this,
What?
give me respect, I'm over here talking. So I take this with, that they're paying for the meters, that means Kingsley will be paying for the meters and we won't absorb any of that cost.
I don't know how they're gonna spread that cost. I would not be surprised if they build it into your rent somehow.
But, folks, you have to understand that, the city doesn't have any jurisdiction out there because as our Public Works Director stated, they own all the facilities out there. They own, it sounds like they are gonna purchase, how they do it, I have no idea, but they are going to install meters, they'll purchase them, they'll have to pay for them. How they do that, we have no control over. We just do not, because they own everything out there. It's a private enterprise. So, but with this motion then, that we have, a motion to amend sections 114-155 and 114-234 to read as set forth in the attached A. All those in favor, say aye.
need a first
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
I need a first and a second
Oh,
first.
we didn't have a motion? Okay, I need a motion to that effect. Motion by Alderman Porter, second. Motion by Alderwoman Prather. Okay, thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. And folks, thank you for coming out. I sense your frustration. I understand it. I believe I do, and I know when we have individuals show up and we have a full gallery that obviously, they're not very happy. I doubt that we've ever seen anybody, a crowd like this down when everybody's happy. But I do understand your predicament. From the city's perspective, our standpoint, really, this is what we can do. And so at least you'll be assured in the future that whenever they bill you, you're not paying for the individuals or the family perhaps, or the mobile home next door that has 8 or 10 individuals. You'll only be paying on what you...
They can't charge us more than the city would charge.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay? Thank you.
Do you have any legal, jurisdiction over those guys? Like, you guys own Belvedere and everything, but then they own that spot there. But can you be telling them, okay, you can't put in generic meters and stuff like that, something that's city approved?
Sir,
So we
sir,
can make sure that everything's, and not put in by their, employees out there.
Okay.
Make sure it's done right.
all right, sir.
Just so, we're backed up with that.
Sir, can you come up here and ask this question, because I've been there. Can you come up to the microphone, the podium, please? I know the lady had a hip issue, but I don't think you do. So if you could come up and state that question, that way it's and state your. I understand. State your name, please.
Paul Beal.
Okay.
I just want to know if you guys have ruling against with them, or, can tell them, you can't put in, generic meters, and have ruling against, like who's putting them in and stuff like that, not just, employees from Four Seasons, doing generic work and stuff like that.
The work they have to do is still covered by the Illinois Plumbing Code, and they'll have to comply with all those state codes with
Okay.
respect to the quality of the parts and who does the work and things like that.
Because I'd be afraid of the people that actually work for them putting the meters and stuff like that in, and putting in like all these meters or something.
Did he-
As long as you guys can back us up against the owners of those, parks.
They'll be inspected.
Right.
They will be inspected.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep, as part of the process.
Good enough.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming up.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
I'd like to thank the board, you guys were a lot of fun. Also, you were a lot of help, I appreciate all you did for our park.
Everybody
I know some people don't understand it, but I think you did what you can do and what we wanted you to. Thank you again.
come out and see John's shop.
Okay,
Be sure to see my job. Thank you again. guys-
thank you.
guys are-
So did we have, did we get a motion, a second on that? Did we get a vote? We got that, right? Okay. Thank you.
We did.
I'm sorry about that, Sarah. We kind of. Huh? Okay, moving on. If we could have a little bit of decorum here. We still have a meeting to run here, folks. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 4C, Fire Department update. Chief Iser, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Public safety meeting here with the update. On April 23rd, new fire candidates Troy Vandenbroek and Zach Bullard were sworn in. Mike Grella, how am I doing? Far enough? We good? You sound great, Chief. Okay. Both of these men had previous firefighter experience with the Byron, Illinois Fire Department. Both came with Office of State Fire Marshal firefighter certifications, as well as State of Illinois paramedic licenses. The candidates both were born and raised in Belvedere, and they reside here now. On May 3rd, Lieutenant Chris Letourneau was promoted to captain of A Shift, and firefighter Dan Draw was promoted to lieutenant of A Shift. On May 6th, Captain Mark Zambrego, with 27 years, and firefighter paramedic Chuck Rotola, with 20 years, were honored with a retirement open house at Station Number 1. Many stopped in to wish them well. Also on May 6th, firefighter paramedic Josh Oates, with 20 years, retired. Josh is not one for parties, but he did convey to me gratitude to the city of Belvedere for the opportunity to serve them in the public safety field. We also were involved in Build a Bike.
We had 2 bikes. Bike and a half, okay, but
It's funny, I didn't see you there.
this is my
Was that the one that left with the flat tire? I did see what, maybe, I don't know. I didn't.
I get back my
I
time?
didn't.
Your time's running.
All right. Okay, on May, been a busy month, average about 10 calls per day. Week of May 3rd, we had 52 calls. Week of May 10th, we had 79 calls. Week of May 17th, we had 72 calls. May proved to be a very busy month for fire emergencies. On May 7th, at 5:39 p.m. in the 700 block of North State Street, large residential structure fire resulted in $75,000 in damages for a home that was valued at $199,000. One cat survived. Unfortunately, 3 others didn't make it out. On May 11th at 2:47 p.m., a house fire in the 1100 block of South State, $15,000 in damages to a home valued at $120,000. No loss of life occurred. On May 13th at 6:31 p.m. in the 1100 block of Pearl Street, a 2-car, well-involved garage fire that resulted in $3,000 in damage to the value of a structure that was valued at $30,000. No injuries were reported. On May 18th at 1:40 a.m., 801 Becky Court apartment building, hallways filling with smoke. Building was being evacuated on our arrival. Further investigation found the source to be unattended cooking on a stovetop. That's going to complete my report for the Belvedere Fire Department. Does anyone have any questions?
Okay, hearing none, we'll move, thank you, Chief. We'll move to item D. Carryover of shift time for Gunstein and Drawl. So essentially, this is for carrying over for 4 shifts, or 96 hours for firefighter Gunstein, and 1 shift, 24 hours for, it's Lieutenant Drawl now, is it? Or?
It is now.
It is now, okay.
It's Lieutenant Drell now.
Okay, so do we have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Alderman Stevens. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Fleury. Any discussion? Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify, or say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to do my report, too. Thanks.
All right, moving on, we moved out of order here a little bit, 5B. So we're at our alley update, and Brent, I'll turn this over to you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Memo in the packet, alley update. As council recalls, at our last committee meeting, I presented some information on alley improvements, basically resurfacing, rehabbing our existing alleys that had an existing surface on them that had been, probably the last time they were done, probably 12 to 15 years ago, was the seal coat process. And now we're going through the process. We've started the process of doing overlays on those specific alleys. So this update is subsequent to that report from last month. And this one deals with the alleyways that we have that are currently either unimproved or partially improved. So attached to my memo is copies of each one of those alleys. There's 29 of them total. They're broken down into quadrants, northeast, south, or northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest of town identified. And through each one of those, there's some recommended actions. Most of those recommendations at this point would be vacating. There's going to be different scenarios used for each one of the alleys. If we have, for example, if we have a alley that has already been previously partially vacated and there's still remaining portions, then my opinion would be we'll go through the vacation process. The vacation process, again, the bottom of the memo, vacating city-owned property must be done by ordinance. Before passage of such an ordinance, a public hearing must be held, and the notice of public hearing must be published at least 15 days prior to the hearing. If the vacation is approved, the property would be divided equally among the adjoining property owners. And you roughly get that semblance of what would actually happen based on those drawings that we put together for you with the little black tick marks of which pieces go to which, and the red line down the center, meaning that the alleys would be split in half.
For those alleys that we have that are from street to street terminus points, my recommendation that as we would start that process, vacation process, we would notify all the adjacent property owners with a questionnaire about the alleyway, the use of the alleyway, and any desires to have improvements done to the alleyway. My concern, probably we could take that same approach with all of these alleys if we wanted to, and maybe we should. But my thought process would be that I've looked at the alleyways that are unimproved, totally grass, and if they currently have no garages, no access, or they've already been fenced, or they've already got outbuildings and stuff that are basically taking over the alleyway, that we'd go through that vacation process. It'll be a long process. It's nothing that's going to happen in the next month or two. It'll be a drawn-out process, but at least we will have direction on, I guess, an ultimate answer on what happens with each one of our alleys that currently are not improved. Having said that, having gone through this list, I do recommend at this point in time, there's 3 alleys specifically where some extensions of improvements would be beneficial. The first one is NW4, which is an alley located north of Roosevelt Street between Dalbein and Berlin. It's only an extension of the alley of 20 lineal feet with an estimated material cost of $480. Basically, right now, the alleyway, what's improved on that alleyway ends at a parking area created for a duplex. The extra 20 feet addition would provide basically a hammerhead, a turnaround, so that residents and stuff can come in, turn around, and head back out again. NW9 is an alley located east of Menominee Street between Boone and Menominee. Extend an alley 132 lineal feet with an estimated material cost of $3,168. There's some semblance of some stone, gravel on that 132 feet now, but not much. There's a garage. It's basically from where our paved improvement stops. There's a garage. It's 2 lots down. It's 132 feet to get to that. So my recommendation would be to fully improve and pave that section for that property owner to serve that property that's currently being utilized. The third one would be SE8, alley located from 8th Street to 9th Street between State and Whitney. Extend alley 330 lineal feet with an estimated material cost of $7,920. That was the alley that was referenced earlier discussions this evening. That at this time I would recommend that we would put those improvements in on all 3 of these alleyways. The work would be done in-house by our street department personnel. The cost is for material cost. I would recommend that we do the excavation, put the 12-inch stone base in initially, let a chance for the property owners to drive on it, Mother Nature to help compact it, and then later on in the season, before snow flies, to put the initial course, 1.5 inches of mat on top of it, with the final course to be done probably the following season, to let the compaction and stuff take place.
Okay, so the cost of these improvements for the NW4, NW9, SE8, those 3 improvements, correct me if I'm wrong, Brent, is $11,568?
That's correct, and my recommendation would be that those improvements would be paid for from the Public Benefit Fund. And Public Benefit Fund has $150,000 in the budget this year for basically construction improvements. The majority of that cost goes towards our ADA required sidewalk improvements that we have to do as part of our overlay projects.
Okay, so do we have a motion to that effect? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion to do Northwest 4, Northwest 9, and Southeast 8 as stated.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Snow. Discussion. Alderman Brereton.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I don't know who's aware, but I'm the other alderman in Ward 5, so I deal with this, I've dealt with this issue quite a bit. And then I came into this meeting tonight under the impression that both Mr. Kruckenberg and Mr. Fabsitz, apologize if I pronounce that wrong, but I thought you guys both wanted the alley improved. And now I'm hearing differently. Just doesn't stop. So
So now you don't want the alley improved.
So it was never something that I was 100% on board with. Obviously, you guys make the vote on doing it, and I can't, me and the people that don't want it done can't stop it from being done. But if it is done, I have to live with it, and then, that is what it is. My preference is that the portion of the alleyway that's unimproved be vacated to the residents that live on the unimproved alleyway. That is ultimately what me and the adjoining neighbors that don't use this alleyway would like.
Any other discussion? Alderwoman Franks? Alderman Fleury next.
I'm just wondering if there's still going to be friction if he doesn't want it. And then I don't know how many people are against it. So, I mean, do we even know any of that?
If I may speak again. So I was here in November. A gentleman that spoke earlier said that I moved in within the last 6 months. That is true. In November when I was here, it was stated that there would be an alleyway survey, that Public Works would come out and do some sort of research on how often this alleyway is used, who it's used by, who is for, who is against it. Now, I have been living here since November, and since that meeting, not a single person has come through. Nobody has taken survey, nobody has come out and looked at foot traffic, looked at who's using it, looked at who's not using it, looked at the residents that are for it, looked at the residents that are against it. Now, my house has security camera on it. It was like that when I bought it. I am more than happy to provide the council with footage that I have. I have a camera on my house that has already faced that alleyway. So I know who uses it and I know who doesn't use it. I can tell you that specifically since November, there is one person that exits the East 9th Street alleyway. There is only one resident that uses that exits right there. Every other adjoining house does not use that exit. Now, I do know that at the end of this street, yes, there is one house that has a garage that faces that alleyway. That portion of the alleyway looks like it was put in almost 30 years ago and never touched again. That portion is loose gravel, it is dirt. Everything after, I think, the house after that, or maybe 2 houses down, is all grass. Never once improved, never looked at, never thought about it again.
Alderman Fleury.
Just have a general question, Brent. Like the alleyways that are talking about being vacated, say if there's 6 houses that are on there, what if one person doesn't want it vacated? What's the process as you notify the other residents?
Well, typically, and we surveyed this alley, actually probably a couple different times, going back to former Mayor Brereton's when he was in office. And it also came back again under Mayor Chamberlain. But typically, that survey question, when we send that out, my answer would be if you have one of those adjoining property owners that desires to have that, then that information, I would just basically bring that information back to council, and council would have to make the ultimate decision on what they wanted to do with that alley. Granted, the alley's platted, the alley's available. The fact that probably back in time, that was a desired way of doing that, so you could have more house because your lots were typically 66 by 132 feet. So you could allow yourself to have more house if you had a separate garage or attached garage off the back. So it'd be more lengthwise as opposed to widthwise. But for the majority of what we've looked at now through this process, there's not a lot of access currently on those unimproved alleyways. Not saying that if there was improvements to be done, you wouldn't see new sheds or new garages or new access points. And that would be the purpose of doing the survey prior as a way to kick things off on each one of these. Again, we're talking about 29 different locations that are qualified. There are a couple of alleyways in here that are only 6 feet wide, so they're basically not usable. So my recommendation would be just to go through the vacation process. But
But again, that information would be presented to council. Council would have to make that ultimate decision on what they want to do. In the case of this specific alleyway, the first time it came up, there was motions made to vacate the southerly, I don't know if it's 132 or 66 feet, I forget what the dimensions were, and that did not pass council. There was a motion to improve the balance of the alley to 9th. That was approved by council, and that was vetoed by the mayor. And the council did not have enough votes to override the veto, so nothing happened. The issue came back again back when Mayor Chamberlain was in office. Again, there was a vote made to vacate the southerly portion. Council did not pass that motion. That did not pass. They had a motion then to improve the alley to 9th, and that motion did pass, and that again was vetoed. And again, council did not have enough votes to override that veto. So again, nothing's happened. So basically, that's kind of how we've gotten to this point where we are today. So at least as far as reporting the facts, I can tell you there's at least 1 or 2 or 3 property owners from what was said earlier tonight that would be interested in having a fully improved alley from 8th to 9th. I can also tell you that there's residents that'd rather see it vacated. And I can tell you what the estimated cost for materials for us to have to do the work, and ultimately council will have to make the decision on what happens.
Alderman Porter.
Well, I just had a related question. So is that a city ordinance that states that if one owner doesn't want it vacated, or is that just a courtesy type thing?
There is no ordinance. That's not even a courtesy thing. It's completely up to the council what it wants to do. All the owners could want you to approve it. If you decide it should be vacated, you vacate it. All the owners could want you to vacate it, but if you decide it's important, you improve it. It is up to the council what it chooses to do.
Alderman Snow.
So I'd be interested to hear from both the police department and the fire department in regards to what they think in regards to accessibility of this particular alley, because it is on the agenda to be improved. Because I remember previously with the fire department, I thought there was issues that they would have preferred to be able to drive a truck from one end to another as opposed to backing it out. Plus, if you have an ambulance sitting at their location, one or both can move in each direction without requiring the other. So just tossing that out there for conversation piece so we can make an informed decision.
Okay, so I remember this conversation a few years ago, and it was asked if we could attack a fire back in that alleyway. And my answer is that, yeah, we'd be able to do it from State Street. You know, so I don't want our apparatus going back in alleys. They're too narrow. They're too expensive, and we have 250 feet of hose on board to get back to those areas. So that's my take on that.
Okay. Chief Woody.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From the police department standpoint, it would be nice to have some sort of decision one way or the other, because we continue to get calls for service for neighbor disputes. But in terms of unrelated calls for service, if the alley is improved and if it's not adequately lit up, you know, there is always the potential for people to utilize that alley in the middle of the night for purposes that are crimes of opportunity, potentially, you know, to commit other types of crimes that you may not necessarily see if they don't have access to those, to an unimproved alley that then becomes the backyards of residents. That would probably be the two situations that I would see from a law enforcement perspective. I mean, we have issues with other alleys, and we have to respond to car burglaries and things like that when neighbors have their garages and then ultimately park outside their garage, and whether they leave their cars unlocked or even secured sometimes, and there's forced entry and things are stolen out of their vehicles. Those seems to be the types of crimes that we tend to see that are related to alleys specifically.
Alderman Stevens.
I remember something from somebody quite a while ago. If one person wants the access off the alley, how can we block them from the use of their property by this? Because once it's vacated, there's gonna be fences go up and all that. And you said that alleys are a big problem. Does Farmington Fields have alleys? There's a large rash cart that's in there.
No, I'm not saying that other areas are immune to it. I'm just simply relaying my experience to the problems that we have with alleys and those types of crimes that can occur. But obviously throughout the city, I mean, we have the same types of crimes on streets and sometimes well-lit streets, neighborhoods. But yeah, if you have a alleyway that can invite pedestrian traffic, that those types of crimes can occur.
Alderwoman Mulhall.
Thank you, Mayor. I have just a couple questions. Brent, the fund that this money is coming from, what else is that fund used for?
Well, primarily, we utilize that to pay for the ADA required improvements for our overlay projects.
And basically, that's it? Those?
Well, the public benefit funds are utilized for generally any capital improvement public works items. So we can use that for overlays, we can use that for patching, we can use it for pothole repairs, we can use it for numerous construction type activities. It's a separate fund. It's not in necessarily our O&M accounts. Our O&M account that would be similar would be our street parking lot maintenance and materials line item. That would be another line item that this type of work would be paid for out of.
Are you depending on this fund to fund all the ADA requirements you're going to be addressing?
Yes.
And there's enough money to do both alleys and?
I believe there will be. If there's not, like I said, street parking lot maintenance and materials would also be a candidate that this material cost could come from.
Thank you. One more question. What is the how are you determining the priority of which alleys are done when? Because I know it goes out a few.
Well, in this particular case, we're talking about making improvements to where they are not currently. So don't confuse it. This would be in addition to what we talked about at our last committee meeting as far as those overlays. So the position would be, at this point in time, these extensions, I'll call them alley extensions, for the full improvements would be done during this construction season.
Thank you.
Alderwoman Prather?
So, quick question here on when you're referring to the actual estimated material cost, this is specifically just to extend the alleys. There's no further improvement going on in any other portion of the alley at that time?
Correct. For example, the SE8 alleyway, we're talking about the improvement to the balance of the 330 feet. So if you go to that map, the northerly portion of that has improvements. We can talk about the condition of those improvements, but they do have improvements compared to just the grass on the south end. So I believe in my schedule for improved areas, improved alleys, which would be the northern half of that northern portion, I think that's been identified as having been rehabbed or overlaid next year. So the thought process would be to put inch and a half down on the south half and then overlay the entire thing as part of next year's budget.
So that's all figured in?
Correct.
Alderwoman Prather, is anything further? No, thank you. Alderwoman Mulhall.
Thank you. Are there any plans for lighting in any of these? Are there any lights in any of these already?
Traditionally, we do not have any lights in alleyways other than if they happen to have them on the street portion already.
Any further question? I will comment on it because I think the chief brought up a good, Chief Woody brought up a good point. And that point is that we've had calls for service on this particular alley, and we've had them for 18 years. What probably some of the aldermen don't know is that I was an alderman for both mayors that vetoed this alley. I was an alderman under Alderman Burden, and I was an alderman under Mayor Chamberlain's term as well. So I've always felt that alleys are part of the city. We have alleys all over the city, right? We have a platted alley here. It's platted. It belongs to the city. Actually, the city has really been neglected, I believe. For years, they've kicked this can, and they've continued not to make a decision. On one point, they've made the recommendation to vacate it, and that's failed. On the other point, they've made the motions to improve it twice, and that's been vetoed. So, here we are. But I will say that whenever a homeowner, they purchase a piece of property, if they don't know that they have an alley, or there's an easement for an alley, or it's platted as an alley, then they should have done their due diligence, and they should have had a plat of survey done, because that tells you what you're buying. That tells you your property. That tells you your borders, and it tells you if there's an alley and where your pins are located at. The city's responsibility, like all the other ones here, like all the ones we have here in front of us, whether or not we improve them, whether or not we don't, whether or not we vacate them, whatever we do with them, they're still in existence. They're still here. I will tell you, I voted both times to go ahead and make these improvements on alleys. And I believe that we've platted them. We've been neglected by not improving them. And whenever we have an exchange of property, then we're doing a disservice to the people that buy the home. Because, you know, the individuals that had lived there for many, many years, and then they sell their home, and we start all over again with an alley question. At some point or other, you know, the council really needs to step up, and they need to decide what we're going to do with this. I know when I sat in your chair, I had made that decision to go ahead and improve them. And I do believe that, you know, in all three of these cases, the Public Works Director has brought improvements. We can afford to do them. I think we run a risk of having ambiguity. We already have ambiguity about issues with certain alleys. And I think we need to make a decision, the council, I would ask the council to make a decision and vote to do this. So it's up to you. You guys are sitting there, but Alderman Snow.
So I'm in favor, just because I made the motion doesn't necessarily do that, but I am in favor of improving this. I realize it may not be to everybody's satisfaction, but by and large, having had a few alleys done last season in my immediate neighborhood that I can directly see on a more daily basis, they definitely improve the whole look and the sharpness of the neighborhood. Now, if somebody had asked, you know, does it increase your taxes or your value or your health? I think inherently a fresher, maintained alley inherently improves the marketability and probably the assessment, thereby a minor tax increase in that regards. And I think in the long run, I think this will resolve a lot of issues, particularly for these three entities. I think we should go ahead and move forward. So I'll be voting yes for these.
I would also remind the council, just not too long ago, I believe we improved an alley, I think it's behind Caswell. And I don't know if the council had entertained that, but that was another example of, you know, we have an alley and we improved it, and we're going to have other ones. And we'll probably see those as well as vacated alleys, questions about vacated alleys. But in this on these three. It's obviously the council's pleasure, but quite frankly, this has been going on for 18 years. And previous councils have passed it, and previous mayors have vetoed it. And here we are again with a new council and a new mayor. So,
And again, just to reiterate, I'll be back with council from time to time, periodically following up on each one of these, the remaining 26 alleys after we talk about these three.
okay. So,
Do we get a roll call vote on this, if we could, Your Honor?
sure, what was the motion for the three alleys at a cost of $11,568, is that correct? Okay. Any other? Alderwoman Frank.
So we're voting on all three as one?
All three to improve NW4, NW9, SE8 at a cost of $11,568 total. Okay. Okay. All those in favor will have a roll call vote. Will signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay.
Burton,
Aye.
Flurry,
Nay.
Frank? No.
Freeman,
Aye.
McGee,
Aye.
Maha,
Nay.
Porter,
Aye.
Prather,
Nay.
Snow,
Aye.
Stevens,
Aye.
6 in favor.
Okay, motion passed. Thank you. Item C, under last item on the agenda, in-person attendance. Regarding Public Act 101-0640, the determination that in-person attendance is prudent. I guess I would ask, do I need a motion to approve this, or?
No, Mr. Mayor, it's actually up to you what you want to do it. If you're going to do it, again, we talked about you doing it formally at council, but you wanted to discuss it with the council at committee tonight and get their feedback on it, but the intent was to require in-person attendance moving forward.
I did want to ask the council at committee. I know that we've all been present. I think 3 weeks ago, everybody showed up for a meeting. So I would like to do that. I think it is important that we move on, that we have in-person attendance. I think it's feasible. I think it's safe, and I think everybody for the last 3 weeks has been there. I would like to do this. If there's some objection, then why I shouldn't, I guess I would like to hear it. But Alderman Snow?
And it's not an objection, and I get the point. My only possible concern is if somebody, like returned, either winds up with the COVID and is basically asymptomatic, or is exposed and is quarantined for that period of time, whether or not this would preclude them from attending. So that would be my only apprehension, barring that. So.
2 comments, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'll answer Alderman Snow's question in a second. Recently, the governor, since we actually drafted this memo and put it on the agenda, adopted a new executive order, moving us into the bridge phase, as he calls it. And of course, he references DCO guidelines and all that kind of things, which they haven't updated their guidelines yet. But at any rate, my best guess is by the end of the month, he will have removed the executive order allowing at-home attendance, or not in-person attendance, at meetings. With respect to your specific question, the Illinois Municipal Code allows a municipality to generally adopt an ordinance to allow aldermen and alderwomen to attend from remotely via phone or what have you, so long as a quorum is in the room, and so long as it's for a qualifying reason, usually it's work or an illness. The city of Belvedere has never adopted that ordinance. So, under our own city codes, once the mayor makes his announcement to council, if you are sick at home, you're just sick at home, you may not participate. We would have to adopt a formal ordinance allowing that to happen, and it would be a general ordinance that would go forward, but we've never done that in the past.
Did I answer
to go ahead and have,
A discussion on doing it as an ordinance allowing that premise, nothing to do with the COVID, but in general, so that we would be covered, if we did need to have a discussion with everybody involved, as opposed to having somebody not attend.
well, I guess we could in the past, you know, if an alderman's been sick and been absent, which has happened many times, then they've been absent, they've been sick. They obviously have to take care of their their well-being. And, I mean, we can put it on the agenda. I think if we look back at what we've done, that always did work. I think COVID has brought us a new, has brought us something new. But I'm hopeful that, as we move forward with this, and as the attorney said, Attorney Drella said that the governor releases, back to normalcy, I would hope that that's our goal, that we could get back to normalcy. And, if the council wants to do that, if they want to, that's fine. I don't know if it's necessary. I believe that we're going to open up here. We're going to go into a different phase. And we've all attended. If we do have an illness, if we do have a sickness, then we're sick. And, so.
I'll withdraw my request.
Okay. Anybody else? To me, I think what the governor is trying to do here is to trying to get the state of Illinois back to normalcy. And I think, government, local government should try and do that as well. We have done that. We've been doing this now for the last 3 weeks. I think everybody's been present. So that's my hope, unless there's a burning desire to change something otherwise.
So what is your decision, just so we all know?
I would like to bring this back, and I will, that's what I will present. Okay. All righty. Nothing else on the agenda. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Alderman Fleury, Alderman Porter, second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everybody, for coming. And we got out of here record time, 2 hours and 10 minutes.